Welcome to the Success Pick and Mix podcast. I'm your host, Nicky Raby, a professional pick and mixer. I'm a personal brand coach, a speaker, an actor, a creator, and a podcaster. I'm on a mission to help you find and create your version of success. Your pick and mix of life and business on your terms. A blend that complements your personality, your goals, and your circumstances. Since 2018, I've been sharing interviews and mini episodes to help you unlock your next step, to make it real and make it happen. Round here, we dream big. We go for the ideal version. We talk about money and make moves our future selves would be proud of. This podcast is free and available for you whenever you need it. So do rate, review, and subscribe for new episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. nickyraby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices and availability, go to nickyraby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests. Now, on to today's episode. In today's episode, I'm talking to Salma Shah, who is a personal branding psychologist and business mentor and coach, helping coaches, consultants, and creatives get clear on their signature program, brand their genius, and achieve emotional success. We talk about that move from the corporate world into defining your own version of business and the types of skills and attributes and elements of your personality that need to come out to play, but also how you can do that on your terms. It's a topic I feel really, really passionate about. I think you'll get lots from this episode. Just a quick one before the episode pops on. I am relaunching my 8-week program, which starts on Sunday the 17th of June. Sorry if you're listening at a later date. It will reopen later in the year. We ran it in April. It was a great success. Lots of people doing lots of brilliant things. So if you are keen on coming on board, there's some brilliant people in there and we would love to welcome you. Have a look. You can go to nickyraby.com/online courses and you'll find all the details. Also, there's a free course there as well, which goes behind the scenes of my brand refresh. So you can check that out as well. Thanks so much. Here's the episode. Hi, Salma. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Nikki, and thank you so much for inviting me on.
What a treat to chat with you today. Let's start with you of what you do and what your business is all about.
Okay, so I'm a personal branding psychologist, and I help consultants, creatives, and coaches who are new to the world of coaching and consulting figure out what their brand voice is, what the signature product is, and get them up and running with their businesses.
Fantastic. And let's go back like a few years. How did this business consultant and how did it all start for you in terms of your own business journey and being a personal brand?
Okay, so let's start with this. So basically, I used to work in the tech sector, and I was in the tech sector for 17 years, but my degree was in psychology. I had this moment, I started having this moment, so I was sitting in the office and looking at people and thinking, I don't think I want your job in 20 years' time.
Yes.
But that feeling would just not go away. And I kept getting, promoted, better paid jobs. And I'd been in a new job for 3 months and that feeling would come back. I don't think I want to do this forever feeling. Mm-hmm. And that led me to restart my own personal development journey. And I was actually on a holiday in Greece, and I met a lady who was a coach, and I started talking to her, and I said to her, I want to do what you're doing. And then it got me started in becoming a coach, and that was in 2003. But it took me 2006 to actually quit my corporate career and really go for it. And the work that I do today actually came as a result of a workshop I designed very early on in my coaching training business, actually. And it was the one workshop that I always have the best feeling afterwards for me.
Yeah.
And also it's the one that I still do today, and actually, of course, it's developed a lot since then. But what I found was that I'd say 4 or 5 years ago, people started saying to me, I want to do what you're doing. How did you get there? It was time for me to really now start helping younger coaches and consultants who are starting off where I was while I was still in corporate, who are either have made the transition or about to make the transition to help them figure out what their brand is, what their product is, who they are, what their voice is, and really to help launch them.
Fantastic. What are the common strands that you find that people struggle with when they're moving into setting up their own gig online and being who they are online?
Online. I think online is it's full of FOMO. It's full of anxiety. I think very often people who are coming out of corporate careers still often have a corporate voice.
Right. Yeah.
That voice and really being yourself again. You go on any social media platform and there are people with thousands of followers and you've only got 100, and there's all sorts of fear, overwhelm, and then also people just come out of corporate life. They're often not that used to really being themselves completely, and that's also a transition path they go through. And also people thinking, oh, what if my old colleagues see this right now? What if my friends see the whole bunch of stuff going on, and it takes a while for people to really figure out, you know something, this is who I am, this is what I want to say, I'm going to keep private, but this is going to go out there. I don't care what anyone thinks anymore.
Yes, gosh, all of those things that, I know there's so much chat about sales funnels or landing pages or opt-ins and all of that kind of technical stuff. But something that comes up again and again from my clients, like, because ultimately you could just Google that or stick it into YouTube and see what comes back. But it's the mindset stuff of saying, actually, I'm going all in. I've given myself permission to do this, and I'm going to see my fear, but sort of try and move it to the side so I can crack on and do what I need to do.
No, absolutely. So, you can read all the books and you can watch all the videos. In fact, everything that we want to know is out there. There's a step change between reading about it and understanding it and actually integrating it.
Yes.
And that doing it is actually a very emotional experience. So you could read every book, watch every video, I think, yeah, I've cracked it, but actually, when it comes to doing, that's when all your emotional, your spiritual, your psychological blocks all come into play.
Yes. I found that with acting, actually, that there comes a point where everybody's sitting around and reading the script, and then it gets to a point where it's like, we just need to put it on its feet now, and we need to move it. And I find that often with business as well. It's sometimes you have to just press publish and go for it.
Absolutely. And I think it's also knowing that, reaching out for help and support will help you move that bit faster. But it's also about, 10 coaches can say the same thing, but one coach is the one who will really understand and resonate with you. And you will get them. And they'll say the same thing, but it's the way they're saying it.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes we can feel like we're waiting for this expert status or waiting to have, this like the 7-figure business or the 6-figure business. And I think, that is great and valid, of course, for those clients. But there are some people in that early stage of launching their business that they're maybe just a few steps ahead of what their ideal client needs from them. And they're equally as valid as well.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a really a pop song from years ago which used to say, nice legs, shame about the face. It's probably not politically correct, but there's often, great marketing, shame about the product, right?
Yes.
You could have the best marketing in the world, but often, once you get it, you think, oh goodness, I've paid a lot of money for this. Or there could be someone who's starting up early who's actually great at what they're doing, they just haven't got their marketing right yet.
I think you're so right, because I think sometimes there's this assumption, because it's your gig and because it's your business, that you should automatically know how to do everything. And I really don't, I certainly personally haven't found that to be the case. I have found stumbling blocks along the way where I'm thinking, gosh, I don't know the first place to start here. Or, when I started putting my website together, I'd never had to use those technical skills before because I didn't have the skills before. I sort of taught myself and, would run into the living room and shout at Matt, like, I've done it. I think I've done it. Right, I'm going to press, okay, I'm going back in there because it just was so not my skill set.
Absolutely. I mean, if I think about my journey, from corporate life to what I do now, I know I've learned so much along the way in terms of skills that I didn't have at all, like PR.
Yeah.
Understanding PR, and it's all self-taught, understanding the back end of the website. I'm on a massive learning curve at the minute with social media, and it's every month that it's growing. But absolutely, I don't think that should stop you from really putting yourself out there. But I think in putting yourself out there, it's doing it in a way which is authentic. And I know the word authentic is overused, but it's really about, put yourself out there as the real you. And when you do that, you have less of that anxiety.
Yeah.
You're just being yourself. It's when you are putting yourself out there and you're trying to copy somebody else, even if it's subconsciously copy, that the anxiety starts to sink in.
Oh, and totally, and it comes up to say hello every single time. If I'm doing something or trying to sell something that is, I don't know, slightly off or not quite ready, or I've got a bit of a quibble about, I don't know, the price or, the package, or it hasn't kind of come from and I don't necessarily do this anymore, but certainly in the early stages, I tried to follow other people's model, and it just was never going to work for me because it didn't work with my circumstances. So there was a bit of a disconnect along the way.
No, absolutely, and this is my big thing at the minute is that this week I've had 2 coaching sessions which have been face to face, and I'm still absolutely buzzing from both of them. So so I think there's a lot to be said for there are a lot of these online models about build an online business, launch your online course, and I really think that we're going to see a shift of actually offline connections and the energy.
Yes.
So powerful. And now, rather than just focus on the online craziness, let's start connecting with people over coffee face to face. Because right throughout this week's meetings face to face have been such powerful transformations, not just for my clients, but actually I've come home thinking, that was amazing, that rocked. Yeah. And I think that energy I can then bring back into my online business.
And I think going out and about, certainly as, if you work for yourself, like you don't necessarily get all your great ideas by sitting behind your desk or just ploughing away and doing the hours on your computer. Like you need to go out and live in the world as well.
No, absolutely. And it's the energy and the dynamic between 2 people that is so powerful when it comes to helping people make those transformations.
How do you work with your clients in terms of their personal branding? What are some of the key components that you work towards, and what are people looking from you?
Okay, so my clients typically they either have left and they're at the startup phase of their consultancy, coaching, whatever they want to call it, business, or they are still in corporate about to make that transition, and they typically are looking around and feeling, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I'm a mindset coach. I'm an overwhelm coach. And all these words are really being used quite a lot. So what I do is I really go back to my degree, which is psychology, and look at helping them understand how they make people feel at their best. Mm. So some people, and this is what I describe as your personal branding archetype. So some people, at their best, they make people feel powerful or courageous or at their best, their wisdom that comes from them is what shifts people along. So I help people, first of all, connect with what their true archetype is, if they're genius. And then I say, well, based on that, let's look at your life story and all the stories that you're bringing with you when you put yourself out there. And how do we build a business around how you make people feel naturally at your best that really draws people to you? What stories of your life are we going to package up and help you put yourself out there? And then who is your audience and how will your audience resonate with you? How will your audience experience you based on who you truly are? And then let's get you out there in terms of social media, offline, online. And I also do a lot of work around helping my clients launch courses, but offline as well as online.
Amazing. Yeah, I think all of those sort of skills are so needed, and sometimes until you get to that point you don't realize that actually you need support. I did a couple of workshops for digital mums around imposter syndrome, and I was totally teaching the lesson that I need to learn on a regular basis, because I used to think that it would only be the beginning bit of business that would be really hard, because once I'd made X number or once I'd got so many followers or so many clients, then everything would be okay. But actually it is that new level, new devil type situation every step of the way, that I didn't realise that I just needed this toolkit to keep tapping into.
I think the devil is the right word, because, as soon as you hit one goal, or you hit another block, another block. I've been working for myself since 2006. In that time, I've had a daughter, moved house, lost a parent. Life has not stopped happening.
Yeah.
Okay. On top of life, you're building a business, and I'm not from a background of entrepreneurs. I'm from a background of humble immigrant parents that worked really hard and achieved a lot, but they were not entrepreneurs. So for me, also humble background means that we didn't have an awful lot growing up.
Yeah.
For me to say goodbye to company car, pension, package, this basic bonuses, all that was really hard.
Yeah.
Because there's a real issue around security, money mindset, blah, blah, blah. And that to me is an ongoing journey.
Yes.
But on top of that, there's, fear of rejection, all sorts, as soon as you kind of sort one thing out, and personally, I'm not beginning to really enjoy that process. Okay, come on, what are you going to send my way next?
Yes. I think my awareness is just like really heightened, and so at least now when it pops up to say hello, I catch it early, whereas and this is probably before I became a parent, like I could really dwell on things and really consider and sort of analyze things and pull things apart, and now it's like, well, whatever happens, my son needs me to get up and sort of on and do breakfast and all the kind of the life admin stuff as well. And I think it's just a work in progress. Every step of the way, you're like, oh, there it is again.
Yeah, is your son at school yet?
No, he's only 2.5. So, but already it's quite interesting to watch him figure out the dynamics of nursery. He only goes 2 days a week, but he's sussed everybody. I feel like he's sort of figuring out, like, oh, if you do that, then this has a knock-on effect. He's trying to figure out society's rules at the moment.
It's so interesting. So my daughter is 7. And it's been really interesting. I mean, it's interesting from the perspective of watching her form friendships, and it's mirroring how I formed friendships, and it's so much going on, and that's another stage of parenting which I wasn't ready for. But it's all part of the journey of being a parent and bringing different aspects of that into your business as well.
Yes. Let's talk about emotional success. That was something that you said in your email that really sparked my interest. Could you explain a little bit more about that term and what it means?
Yeah, so for me, emotional success, it's going back to my concept of knowing how you make people feel at your best, and knowing how you feel when you are at your best, right?
Yeah.
And recreating that feeling again and again and again and again in your business and your life.
Because I feel like sometimes it can be like this external thing, like the job or the share on social media or the Gucci handbag or whatever. And actually those things, like we were saying earlier, of sort of the coach assumption of the first class travel or the working remotely or whatever, life still goes on, especially if you've got children as well.
Now, don't get me wrong, I love my nice stuff. However, I know that this week when I coached my client, when I left her, I was feeling absolutely on a high. And that is what I call emotional success.
Yes.
Okay. And I know that, so I've learned, because, I've been coaching for a while, I've learned what kind of people I don't serve very well and what kind of people I do serve very, very well. So for me, emotional success is knowing this is a feeling that makes me feel really uplifted and great. And I know that when I am coaching somebody from that part of me, which is almost automatic, almost unconscious, it's the feeling I just want more and more of, and therefore, how do I get myself in a position where I'm always working in this kind of state for me?
Yes. And have you really found the power of that? Because there have been times where it's been the opposite, where you've been in situations where you're like, oh, I think I'm in the wrong room, or these are not my ideal clients.
Oh, yes. Let me start with Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. I'm not the only one.
That was really quick, wasn't it? Oh, yes. So when I first started working for myself, I quickly made a decision that for me, I needed a combination of one-to-one coaching work, but also running workshops.
Yes.
One-to-many work, and I still have that kind of system in my business. So my coach at the time said to me, "Why don't you just write an email to a couple of companies and put yourself forward as an associate trainer?" Okay, so I found this organisation. I sent them an email, and because my background was in tech, I offered my skills as communication skills for salespeople working in tech.
Yeah.
Okay, and they called me for an interview 24 hours later. Like, I've got on the train all the way to Winslow, which is quite far from London. Had an interview and he said to me, "Okay, when can you start? We're going to give you some work." Anyway, so and I was training their graduate sales people who are going to be working in tech companies. Now, and actually, I did work for them for 6 months, but these were 26-year-old, mostly men, boys, high testosterone, egotistical, and I was hating doing that work, right? And basically, I soon realised that I do not serve at my best. Very aggressive, young in life, pretty young in career, ballsy guys who are not ready to hear my wisdom quite yet. And I know that when I'm at my best, I'm coming from this, inner wisdom, very intuitive, but also very practical and pragmatic.
Yes. They
probably found my inner wisdom stuff a bit too lofty because they're not ready yet.
Right.
And I'm not being judgmental, it's just how it was.
Yeah.
So I learned that, because initially I did try to go back and sell back into tech a lot, but what I realised was that I do not serve certain people very well. But having said that, I now do have a training business which is called Soft Skills for Tech, but I've totally, in that business, niched down with exactly who I do serve well in tech.
That's so good. And I think also there's this pressure to kind of just get your first paying client or just get the money through the door. And I think, yes, that is important to a certain extent, because once the money starts to come, you know that it works and you know that you can do this. But I think sometimes people stay in the mindset of, oh, well, I don't mind for way too long, rather than being really deliberate about saying, actually, this is the way that I can really serve. And this is, I know I did it I was coaching quite a lot of actors and helping them with letters and pitching themselves and things like that. But ultimately what I didn't want to do is just give how to write a letter in 5 easy steps. For me, there's a much bigger message or mission that I'm here to do. And it took me a long time to really tap into that.
Absolutely, and then because I talk about emotional success, you have taken a leap, working for yourself, but you are not being emotionally successful because you're not feeling great about doing that kind of work.
Yes.
So actually, you've gone from one not so great situation to creating another one, and that's something I see a lot, is where someone's left a corporate career or some career, or to shift things, and they've actually gone and recreated it in another way.
Yeah.
And then they have a complete, now I can't go back, I can't go forward, I'm just miserable, what have I done? So, which is why if you really start with who you serve best, how you feel when you serve them, you can start getting really good at saying no to situations which don't serve you or that person. And what you'll find is you'll start attracting more and more the right people to start coming in.
Yes, no has been one of the most important words that I can use, because I am certainly having to say it more and more every single day, because it's when you're doing something and when you're out there and you're being successful at what it is, it can attract all kinds of opportunities, but that's not to say all of them will be right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you know what your success looks like, or to me actually what it feels like, because I think feelings are really, really important.
Yes.
Especially feelings coming from a good place, you can start voicing your messages in a much more positive way, which is why when I came across your work, I just thought I have to get to know this lady, because I just loved what you're saying.
Oh, thank you so much, because I think it has taken a long time to get to this place, and I think sometimes this idea of just leave the 9 to 5, and then go out and find yourself, and you'll have this dream business in 72 hours if you just follow these 6 steps. I really struggle with that, because actually it does take a long time, well, much longer, and more money and more time and training and effort to really evolve into who you're supposed to be. And certainly my business has had lots of different phases to it.
Absolutely, same here. And I call me a cynic, but I'm so switched off from that.
Yeah, me too.
You and I both know. I just kind of so switched off from that. 6-figure over 24 hours and drinking champagne in Paris with your LV handbag. Again, I love my handbag, but it's just, there's so much noise out there, and I feel very frustrated, because often they do suck in a certain vulnerable type of person.
Yeah, because all of that is lovely, of course. I do those sort of material aspects, and I really want to build our dream house one day, and all of that sort of stuff. Like, I do have big dreams, but also I need not to be stressed, and I don't do my best work in the world when I'm worried about money or overstretching myself in any capacity, really.
And absolutely, because you want to feel good about what you're doing, and feel at peace with yourself, or feel energized, or whatever it is that makes you feel like your best. So absolutely right. And I think those 6-figure promises overnight, actually, when the person that's making 6 figures overnight is the person that's selling that course.
Yeah, quite exactly. That it's like, well, I haven't actually done it until you all signed up. In terms of the way that you've built your business and your life, what have been the really great things that have come out of your shift? Because I guess it was one of those things that you could have quite easily stayed where you were and what you were doing, because as you mentioned, you had that security and that sense of, well, this is what I do and this is what I've always done. What surprised you along the way in terms of the benefits?
I think what I've realised is that the more I am myself in the work I do, the easier my work is. And I think in my tech career, they probably saw 20% of the real me.
Right.
And that was sad for them, actually, and sad for me. But I think early in your career, you often have to use certain skills to get ahead, and I absolutely get that.
Yes.
But the whole of me was not showing up. I was in a sector where if I said the word psychology, they would laugh. It's not right. What's all that fluffy?
Oh, we don't want that round here. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of kept that part of me secret. Because I was in a very I was in a customer facing sales support, selling multi-million-pound deals to large corporates.
Wow.
80% male, mostly men, not very many women, but that was never an issue for me. But it was a very hard-nosed industry, and I just saw myself, if I stay on this track, one, I'm going to end up really hard-nosed and very sick, because it's not my natural nature. So I think the great thing is that I just love what I do. I can just be me. My house is packed with books about personal development and psychology, and I think when you shift gear, you start hanging around people who are like you, and that's nicer as well.
Yes.
And along the journey, you will lose some of those people, but some of those people have come with me as well. And it's quite interesting. Sometimes my old colleagues will spot me on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, Salma, I really love what you're doing now."
And I need some, because I'm losing my mind because I haven't moved on.
That's what's usually behind it. How did you do it? Okay, well, let me tell you.
Yeah. And, people come out the woodwork, don't they? Because I think sometimes we're conditioned to think that we should just be grateful for what we have, or, well, you've got the large salary, so who are you to think about that you can have anything else? And actually, we're in a great time right now, especially for women as well, that we can do lots of things. We're multifaceted. We're brilliant people.
Yeah, and the other thing I really want to mention, actually, is that this happened to me, is that, and I see it a lot in my clients as well, is very often they're about to leave and they don't. Yeah. And then what they do is self-sabotage.
Yes.
And I did that. And I've seen lots of people do it. And what I did was I took a really awful job. I got headhunted into it. At the interview, my gut feeling was, it's not on my LinkedIn profile, so you're not going to find it. At the interview, I had a really awful feeling about the person interviewing me. And I went against instinct and I said yes. Within weeks of joining, I hated that place, and I started getting really, I'm not a crier type of person, but I found myself coming home and I was in tears. I was thinking, I don't want to work with this person. It's actually somebody who was bringing up older issues of, personality types I'd never dealt with before.
Yes.
There was stuff, and I knew what was going on, but I couldn't handle being around that kind of person again in my life. I'd said goodbye to that kind of person.
Gosh, that's so interesting, because I think we are, we feel, I was so relieved to leave school. I remember that kind of, so many people were crying in the playground after we'd done our GCSEs, and I was very much of the mindset, like, I am so done here. Yeah. Laters, everybody, because, my work is done, literally. But, it's interesting when you face these things again and again, like a little test along the way.
Yeah, and I think for me, it was taking that job was pure self-sabotage. And then once in it, when it wasn't working out, I quit in a day and just left. And I thought, I don't care. This is somebody who, I'm really cautious about security. I just thought, you know what, I'm not putting up with this with anyone anymore.
Yeah.
And I walked out at 3 months, and then I had a massive kind of, what have I done? But not at leaving that job, but then I had a real period of, should I go back into tech? And eventually,
what now?
Then my coach said, look, why don't you just write an email to some companies and just do it? And I did it, and it worked. So, but I see a lot of self-sabotage, because very often, most of us are too scared to take that leap.
Right.
But what was good about it was that I'd actually, because I'd been working as a coach almost for a couple of years before I made the leap, I was preparing it all the time. I was prepared for it.
Yeah. And I've realised, actually, when you're in it at the time, when you're in those tricky situations, or when you're feeling a bit blubbery in the toilets, or just like not, again, that thing of not the best version of yourself, it can be really hard to ever believe that this is going to come back around and actually be, as my mum would say, character building. It's sort of one of those things. But actually, when I've been down on my knees kind of at the end of my rope, those have been the lessons that I look back on and go, oh, okay, right. Well, I came out of that, and that surprised me. And actually, it's not going to be bad like that again. So come on, let's do this.
Absolutely. And I think it's a combination of putting yourself out there, but also attracting things effortlessly. Because, and that's when the business started. It just started to happen. I always take action, but I let go of the outcome.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's so good. Absolutely. In terms of going forward, where would you like to be in 5 years' time?
Well, I'm working on a book.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
So I'm really excited about that. I just see myself doing what I'm doing today, but on a much, much bigger scale. Multiple streams of revenue, working on that. Just more and more of what I'm doing today. But I want to help more and more people, escape the rat race, launch their businesses. But I want to see people do it from a place of power rather than a place of fear.
Yes.
And also I want to see a shift for others where they are, no longer chasing that million overnight success, but understanding what works for them, that truly works for them.
So good. So good. And if people want to come out and find out more about stuff that you're working on, or come and connect online, where should they go?
So I've got some lovely freebies. And one is a 5-day free course on dreaming to doing. So if you're at the cusp of not being sure where you want to go next, a lovely course which will just help you figure out what you want to do next on dreaming to doing.
Brilliant. Well, if you want to share the link, I'll have a look in the show notes and you can find it there and go over and say hi. And what's your social media?
I'm mostly on Instagram.
Me too.
I love Instagram. It's called the Salma Shah. And I'm also on Facebook. I've got a Facebook group as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'll add all of those into the show notes. Thank you so much for sharing so much great information today. I think I've taken away so much stuff as well. And it's just that it's come at a really great time for me in terms of my own rebrand and really having that confirmation that what I've done is the right thing and that it's all going to work out, because I think going to the next level can be really scary sometimes. So, this seemed like the perfect interview at the perfect time for me. Thank you.
Oh, Nicky, thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been a real pleasure, and thank you so much for trusting me to come and share this with your audience.
You're very welcome. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you haven't already, feel free to rate, review, and subscribe for all the brand new episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. nickyraby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices, availability, or just to have a chat with me, go to nickyraby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests, and I'll see you next time.